it would help if I turn on the mic it's one of those Monday mornings. Okay, welcome everyone. Sorry about the little hiccup there, but so it is. Today we have a very important broadcast. We're going to actually look into one of the articles of impeachment out of two. There are two articles of impeachment uh, that have been levied against President Donald Trump. And what we're going to do, we're going to look into it. We're going to look into it and research it, do some research. I know a lot of you guys probably just don't bother looking into things, but we're going to do that today on this show. And we're going to consider what the meaning is to these charges, okay? And also we're going to look at first what the impeachment process is all about, okay? So let's do that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to play the intro again just so I can kill that phone so it doesn't interrupt us anymore, okay? So we're going to have the intro once again. I usually leave it on so that the other people can pick up the phone, but when they fail to do that, then I'm just gonna have to cut the line. All right, so let's get into this. What are the articles? What is first of all? Let's take in some impeachment information. The latest from the Republican Herald. We're gonna look at this, and we're going to talk about this a little bit. It's just from the Republican Herald.com by Associated Press, basically where they get it from, and that's bolstering impeachment case. Them say Trump betrayed nation. So it's the postulation by the Democrats in the House of Representatives that Trump betrayed the nation. This is the high crime and misdemeanors part of the impeachment qualifier. To have an impeachment of a sitting president, there has to be it fits into a qualifying set of impeachable offenses. You hear that a lot. What are impeachable offenses? It has to reach these levels of qualification for a president to be impeached, because it's not something that should be done lightly. Okay, for obvious reasons, we are going against the vote, the election of a vote by the people is a very serious matter. It's not something to be done lightly. It's not something to be, because a lot of people say, let's impeach. Remember that what you want to happen to a president, a sitting president, forget who it is. It doesn't matter. Trump, Obama, whoever it was. You want to impeach the sitting president, you have to understand that this can happen then also with a president that you favor. So you have to understand what you're asking Congress to do. You want them to exercise the power of removal of a president based on whatever it is you feel is right. And then what's going to happen when your preferred president is sitting in office, and then the other side, the losers of that election, want to then also then impeach that president? I mean, is this the game that we're going to play? So now we're going to add to the election process not just a campaign to the primaries for primary. These are not election candidates, by the way. People running in a primary are not presidential candidates. Remember that. They're not actually in a presidential campaign. They are in a primary campaign to win the nomination of their parties towards the presidential campaign. Okay? So that's something that you need to remember in the short future, because we're going to come back to that. But then you have the winning nomination. The winning candidate then is supported by the party, and then you have the presidential campaign. Now you have the elections. And then on the election day, the American people cast their vote. Electoral College then votes in the winning president of the United States. This is duly election in the United States. Now, that should be the end of it. But we are now having this issue where the election is now being contested. If any one of these articles, if any one of them, because you have to understand something, if this is not an integral effort, honest, right, and truthful, then it is a partisan attempt to still contend the election. You understand that? And what it does, it creates an added step so that to our election, our electoral process. So it's no longer just that the president has to win the election on November, but he or she has to also then begin the process of validating that election through the process of impeachment and basically a political inquisition. And that is what we're exposing our country to. I don't think that we can operate that way. Either you get the job or you don't get the job. You know, it's like you got the job, but you're on probation, and everything you do, we're going to be checking you out. Everything you do, and we're already setting up the impeachment process. It's like you start your job, and then automatically you're brought up on charges that we're going to have a firing inquiry from day one. So this is the precedent that's starting to take shape because of a very strong, passionate desire for certain. I guess it's a certain trajectory or ideology that people want to see this country go through. So basically, that's basically what it's becoming clear. But let's look. Let's look at the article. If bolstering its case for impeaching President Donald Trump, a House panel released a lengthy report Monday detailing its rationale for the charges and accusing Trump of betraying the nation. And this is the key point, for his own political gain. Okay, for his own political gain. Sorry, I don't want to click on that. But in any case, this is the article in the AP, but we'll still stay here. Trump faces two articles of impeachment by House Democrats: abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. They point to Trump pressuring Ukraine to investigate the 2020 political rival Joe Biden. See what was said here? 2020 political rival. So this is the first thing right off the bat, and that we have to look at. Joe Biden is not a political rival to President Trump. He's not yet. If he wins the Democratic Party nomination, then he becomes a 2020 political rival. He's right now a 2020 political candidate. He's not a rival to Trump. But you can see how already this AP, it's from Associated Press, which should be, I guess, non-biased, trying to stay away from opinions and present news. This is not true right off the bat. So you can see how the reporters are putting in their little biases through using certain words. Biden is not a political rival. Now, if you don't use this, see the way I'm doing this, if you look at something and question, wait a minute, why is he using that word? See, but most people don't read stuff and say that and think that. They just keep reading, they keep swallowing whatever they you do it for religious things, for your, to anything that your church denominations put out there, your teachers and rabbis put out there, you swallow it up without question, without question. You have to question, because when you don't question, you fall for whatever they're feeding you. You put that in yourself and you contaminate your body and your mind, because this is your mind here, right? So you have to be careful what you're feeding on. The 2020 political not rival. So it should be non-rival. Let's strike this up as a typo. He's a non-rival. Joe Biden, while withholding as leverage military aid the country relies to counter Russia, as well as his efforts to block the House investigation. So we see that what the Democrats are not liking here, apparently, is that is the withholding as leverage of military aid the country relies on to counter Russia, right? So remember that. That's no good. The Democrats want Ukraine to get the money. That's what the Democrats want. And we all want that, because we want Ukraine to be able to defend itself and keep Russia in their own yard, right? So this is something we all want, right? So this is the issue. This is the issue here is that using leverage, using money that's supposed to go to Ukraine, and for them using it to get them to do something, right? And knowing that they need this aid to defend against Russia, this is the real evil here. So we need to understand that that's what's being said. We all agree to that. Okay? So remember that, because that's the point. That's the point of this, the abuse of power. Okay? And remember, impeachment also, by the way, impeachment involves anyone that's an employee or an official of the United States government in a place of honor. Anyone that has a place of honor in the government or is an employee of the government is subject to impeachment. So that for you guys to understand, this is not just about the president. In any official, anyone put into a government position of honor outside of being an employee, because they may not be employees, they may not be career this or that agents of an agency, but some people are appointed in seats of authority, and these are seats of honor. They're also subject to impeachment. So you have to understand what impeachment who it affects, so that anyone that is in a seat of honor in government or power, through authority, through a job, or through a position of placement of being appointed, all of these people can be impeached. All right. All right. So now that we know what the House and the Democrats are consider important, and we all agree also this is an important thing. So let us go into there's more to read here. So I encourage you to look for that article at republicanherald.com, also at the Associated Press originally. This is where the original article comes out from. So let us go into, and this is the AP article, by the way. So just simply what the articles of impeachment are stated very clearly. So let's go into what an impeachment is so that you guys can understand. From Wiki, we're going to use that as our source. Impeachment in the United States is the process by which a legislature, usually in the form of the lower house, brings charges against a civil officer of government, not just the president, and any civil officer, for crimes alleged to have been committed. Okay, it's a process. Impeachment is a process to bring charges against. Now, to better understand this, what other process do you and I know of that also serves to bring charges against a person? Do you know of any? Right? A lot of you should know that if you sat jury duty, especially and particularly grand jury. How many of you done grand jury? Because a lot of us do the jury, the regular jury. We hear the court cases, but you most may not know that these court cases only come to court after they've gone through the grand jury. I'm talking about the criminal type of stuff, right? So when they have to go through, the DA, district attorney, has to take it. Sometimes the attorney general, in terms of these higher grand juries, these great grand juries. I forget that there's a particular name. I've never sat on that, but in any case, they have these more secretive grand juries out there that are handling the big cases, right? So some of them get sequestered for months. So this here is akin to a grand jury hearing the evidence that the DA or whoever's the prosecuting authority presents to the grand jury for reasons, for the reason or the rationale, just like the House did here, why this person or company or whatever should be tried at a court, in a court and with a jury for these crimes. That is what the grand jury does. If the grand jury votes in favor that there is enough evidence to take this to court, that person's still not guilty. They're not saying that the person is guilty, that there was a crime committed. No, that's not the point. The point is that this issue has enough validity to have it considered in the court of law. That's all that it means. So you have to understand. Everybody got to understand. Stop with the silliness already. Impeachment, and in this case, when the lower house votes Wednesday, I believe the vote is coming in for impeachment, it is still not any. It doesn't mean guilty. It just means that charges have been gone through this house, and now we send it to the courtroom, which is the Senate. That's the way it is. The Senate, the higher house, is the court for impeachment issues. The lower house, here the House of Representatives, is the DA. It's doing the role of the DA, the district attorney, the prosecutor. And their role is to say, hey, look at all of this that we did, and we found these things, and we believe that this is enough to have to go to court with, to have a trial in the Senate. That's all the impeachment is. The impeachment is like an indictment. It's not the same legally, but it's the same. It has the same place within the impeachment in terms of government officials. It does not replace an indictment. In other words, if somebody really actually did a crime, they could be impeached in with this process and also be indicted in with the regular process. They can suffer both of those because this has to do with the government, not the courts. This has to do with government. Should this person remain in their official position? That's all this does. That's all this is about. If there was actually a crime committed, then at a later time or right after, before and after, whatever, except in the case of the president, matter of fact, I don't think the president during his tenure as the president, as long as he's sitting, I don't think they would allow the indictment to proceed or even get started. It would have to wait. But in any case, anyone else, though, they can get an indictment as well, started right away, as far as I understand it, but not the sitting president. It's the only difference for obvious reasons. It's a disruption in the country. It's a weakening of our country, exposes our country to danger, to attack, to all types of distressful conditions where other countries can take advantage and use the disruption in the public mind and the weakness in the country that is wounded because of you take off the head, you're pretty much wounded. It's a perfect time to do something. It weakens the country between the president being taken out, let's say, by an impeachment and a conviction in the Senate. Then this time period where who has the ability to command the armed forces, who how quick can the country maneuver itself to change over to the vice president's control. And these little things here present in a weakened state for who knows however time, and you're gonna hear it from the government at all, would be an exposure and a weakness, total weakness of our government. It's like saying the countries can attack us when we're naked, and the impeachment places us into the dressing room. Basically, that's what's happening, and that's the danger, because while we're in the dressing room with disrobing, that's when another country can come in and do some damage. Okay, so you have to be very careful. This is not a light matter at all. Okay, so again, so that it's analogous. It says right here to the bringing of an indictment by a grand jury. Again, it's not a guilty. It's not an issue of being guilty. A lot of you wrongly, you hear someone saying, "Oh, President Trump is guilty." No, This is not a time to be talking about guilt or not. The issue here is and is there enough evidence to justify a court trial in the Senate to impeach this president? That's all that means. In other words, to remove the president, because that's the point of impeachment. Impeachment is not the point. The point is removing the president. That's the point. So that he's impeached, it doesn't matter. Many people go to court, they're indicted by a grand jury. It does not mean that they will end up guilty in the court of law by a jury of their peers. It does not mean that people walk out of the courtroom and they're free and clear. Okay, so impeachment and being impeached does not mean that a person is guilty. Okay, so we have to get that straight. Just, you guys have to remember, we're in America. We're in the United States of America. So get your facts straight. And there's so much misinformation here from, I get the Democrats. I don't think the Republicans are misinforming the people as regards to what an impeachment is, actually. I think most of you don't know. You don't bother to do your research. And then you allow the Democrats to spoon feed you whatever they want you to believe. And most of the things are emotional. Oh, he is guilty. He is guilty. Now he'll get impeached, as if the impeachment was the end of the road. It isn't. You do not have a goal. It is not the goal. Okay, the goal is removal of the president. All right, so that's it. Impeachment is like an indictment. He got indicted. So what? Now it goes to the court, and now the real facts, right, and the opposing facts fight each other, and then a jury, which in this case would be the Senate, hearing all of the evidence instead of just the prosecutors, the Democrats' point of view, is heard, and they vote, and then they either convict or they acquit. And that's the end of the story. If they acquit, then that's that. There's nothing else. Now, keeping an impeachment, which is like an indictment over someone's head, is anti-American. That's the other thing. So many people can get indicted by a grand jury doesn't mean nothing. They're entitled for the day in court. Okay, so there again, what is the mode what the phrase we always say? Innocent until proven guilty. That's not impeachment. That's not indictment. That is in the court of law, and in terms of the impeachment process in the Senate. The Senate has to put the nail in the coffin and say, yes, this is incorrect behavior. It is impeachable behavior. We find it that he did it, or the president has committed it, and therefore we vote that he is to be removed from office, and that's the penalty. That is, he's impeached and removed from office. That has to come from the Senate, not from the House of Representatives. They can only levy the charges. That's what they're going to do. Now the House votes now to, and they're like the grand jury says, okay, now we can. So the full House is like the grand jury, and they're going to throw it out into the Senate. Okay, so but once it gets into court, the court is the final arbiter, right? So they're the ones who are going to get the case. So this case, if it goes through the House, which if people are voting partisan here, it'll go through the House. Now, going into the Senate, it doesn't matter if the Senate has a majority Republican, because the whole function is to hear the case, to hear the points of the case. This is where the case is going to get tried. All right. So that is just the basic function of the Senate, and then comes the vote. It's simple and plain and simple. And what do the Democrats want? The Democrats want the Senate to do differently as the House did, because right now the House is going to vote partisan. The House is going to vote partisan, and so, but they don't want the Republicans to vote partisan. You see, that's an issue. The House doesn't want them to vote partisan, but yet they're voting partisan. They're voting partisan. Okay, and now we're going to see, and the proof is in the pudding. So we're going to look closely at that. So at the federal level, this is at the discretion of the House of Representatives. Most impeachments have concerned alleged crimes committed while in office, though there have been a few cases in which officials have been impeached, subsequently convicted for crimes committed prior to taking office. Okay, so that's basically what the impeachment process is. Anyone, even governors, can get impeached, etc., etc. Now, here are the constitutional provisions. There are several provisions in the United States Constitution relating to impeachment. Article 1, Section 2, Clause 5 establishes the legislative branch of the federal government, right? In Article 1, in the United States Congress. Under Article 1, Congress is a bicameral legislature, meaning it has two sides, consisting of the House of Representatives and the Senate. It's not basically sides, but it's just divided into two bodies. Okay, so It says here, for the House of Representatives shall have the sole power of indictment. In other words, of presenting and stating by a vote that is enough evidence to be taken to the Senate. That's basically what this Constitution empowers the House of Representatives to do. Simple, okay? This is not guilty. This is simply, we think there's enough evidence for whatever reasons, truthfully or partisanly, right? To have an impeachment trial in the Senate. That's all that's in question here. It's not impeachment. When it gets to the Senate, then, and if the Senate agrees, then it is impeachment. You understand? It is a final declaration, it's a conviction. And then that results in a removal of office. See? But impeachment by itself is just an indictment. Doesn't do anything if the House of Representatives is the only one to vote for against President Trump for an impeachment, and then when it goes to the Senate, if it deflates and just becomes nothing, and the president is acquitted, then the impeachment in the House means nothing. It absolutely means nothing, unless you are trying to destroy the United States of America as a country. You want to keep dividing the people on silliness and on un-American attitudes, which is he's guilty. I know he's guilty. That's it. I don't care what anyone says. See, that's an un-American attitude. That will destroy the country. You're being un-American. Simply, you need to let the Constitution do what it was supposed to do. The Constitution has in its construct the ability to correct partisan attacks on the presidency, and this is the process right now. When it goes now into the Senate, then things are going to get straightened out. Whatever is twisted, I am in perfect agreement that whatever is true and whatever is illegal or inappropriate for the office of the presidency, that should be upheld. So I'm not like, hey, no, we don't want to hear, we don't, no. I want to hear what has weight. The question is what has weight. So if you hold on for more, you'll see we'll be measuring one of these things, weighing it to see if it actually has any weight. The Senate shall have the sole power in Article 1, Section 3, Clause 6 and 7 provides that the Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. Okay? So the Senate has the sole power to try the impeachments, which are indictments. Nothing to the impeachment, remember, until it gets voted on by the Senate. When sitting for that purpose, they shall be on oath or affirmation. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. Okay? So, and again, you can read more about the impeachable things here, impeachable offenses on Wikipedia: treason, bribery, and other high crimes and misdemeanors. Just basically, first of all, we know that bribery is a no-no. Okay, treason is not part of anything in these articles. Bribery has to do with the articles, not indirectly, but because of part of the proofs, the evidences brought in by the Democrats involve an issue of bribery. So but we'll see that in a moment. But directly, they're trying to get Trump impeached and then tried on an issue of high crimes and misdemeanors, which is not defined in the Constitution itself. Is basically open for interpretation, and basically it should be only used. It was meant to be ambiguous in order to encompass any possible developments that may at any time, and other times be okay, but in others be totally a something that's against the country, and as the Democrats put it, against the national security of the United States. So in that sense, then that would be within the construct of high crimes and misdemeanors. Okay, so since there is no definite um, uh, designation, we have to accept that um, we have to accept the proposition that it is a high crime and misdemeanor if we agree to the conditions that the Democrats seem to have been focused on and present. That's why all those pages of 600 and some odd pages in the indictment, in the articles of impeachment, to lend support to that determination. So that's the reason for all of that, the hearings and all of that, is to try to put up enough support that this reaches the level of being a high crime and a misdemeanor. It gives basically Congress has identified three general types of conduct that constitute grounds for impeachment. Although these categories should not be understood as exhaustive, of course, this is not the complete possibilities, but these are the basic general ones. Well, number one, improperly exceeding or abusing the powers of the office, which is what's alleged by the Democrats that Trump did. Two, behavior incompatible with the function and purpose of the office. And three, misusing the office for an improper purpose or for personal gain, which is where, and basically, the Democrats, through their articles of impeachment, have tried to match up the different parts of evidence, or the evidentiary discovery. They've tried to connect it to one or all three of these main agreed to standard categories for impeachment qualification. And then also, just as another note here, conversely, not all criminal conduct is impeachable in 1974. So it's not enough, even if it is a criminal conduct, it's not enough to warrant conviction. Impeachment. It has to comply with these main parts here. It says the Judiciary Committee rejected an article of impeachment against President Nixon, alleging that he committed tax fraud, which of course is a crime, right? But has nothing to do with the office of the president. So again, it has to have to deal or concern itself with his authority and office of the presidency, and that is the restriction on that for this. So we can continue now and see the exact resolution submitted by Representative Nadler. It says here, impeaching Donald Trump, President of the United States, for high crimes and misdemeanors, resolution resolved that Donald J. Trump, President of the United States, is impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors. So this is where they're hanging their hat on the impeachment, and that the following articles of impeachment be exhibited to the United States Senate, because again, they're the ones that make the decision. Articles of impeachment exhibited by the House of Representatives of the United States of America in the name of itself and the people of the United States of America against Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America, in maintenance and support of its impeachment against him for high crimes and misdemeanors. Article 1, Abuse of Power. The Constitution provides that the House of Representatives shall have the sole power of impeachment, which we read, right? So they're quoting that. And that the President shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of. See? So shall be removed from office on impeachment, not just on impeachment. He can't be removed from office on impeachment. It says shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, And the conviction is the Senate. Remember, the Senate has to agree, has to vote that yes, he did commit these crimes: treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Now, remember, though, what I said before, what we saw, that impeachment does not only apply to the president, it applies to anyone appointed to a government position or who is employee of a governmental agency. Any one of those, all politicians, governors, and all that, all of them can be impeached, state level, federal level, within the level of their seat, with their political seat, and then you see that they can all also get impeached through those processes. And so, and for these reasons, so you have to pay attention, because in the beginning we talked about bribery, right? Now it comes up again. All right. So, in his conduct of the office of President of the United States and in violation of his constitutional oath, faithfully to execute the office of the President of the United States, and quote this, because a lot of you guys call him an idiot, but he's covered actually by his oath of office. This is this is the thing. You guys keep giving Trump the way out. It's just incredible. You calling him an idiot, but look at the oath. So they cannot say that he violated his oath of office, because if he is an idiot, as most of you guys say, then he did to the best of his ability. So all of this, so that discounts uh, him violating his oath of office, and really puts in jeopardy all of this. So it's quite interesting and laughable that the a lot of Democrats, really, you guys are kicking yourselves in the rear end, left and right, every which way from Sunday, because of all the things you guys say about Trump. You are is all exculpatory to anything you want to get accomplished now. So it really goes against you. All the negativity from day one of his office, of his presidency, all of that comes into play. You see a pattern of attacks, a pattern of trying to trip up the presidency, the office of the president. That's a very dangerous thing, simply because you provide so much exculpatory evidence that a court would have to, even now the Senate is going to have to consider. You guys come and you want, after you made the president trip up, now you want to condemn him for the tripping that you guys caused? Oh, that you guys had a great amount of involvement in? See, that provides space. And that's all that I'm saying. You guys provided Trump with a lot of space. With a lot of space here. Thanks. Okay. So, and to the best of his ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of his constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. Underline that. Remember that. They're accusing him of not making sure that the laws of the Congress of the United States be faithfully executed. And for that reason, Donald J. Trump has abused the powers of the presidency. Okay? And basically, now, why exactly? Because using the powers of his high office, President Trump solicited the interference of a foreign government, Ukraine, in the 2020 United States presidential election, which of course is not happening yet. We're in the primary stage, right? So we don't know who the Democratic candidate is going to be. We don't know that, do we? Do they know it? We like to know. I think Democrats should demand to know if they have a candidate or not. That's the question. But seemingly they must have one, because they're accusing Trump of interfering in the 2020 elections using Ukraine. But as far as we know, the only thing he's asked about with Ukraine was about some Biden participation with Burisma. That's all we know. But Biden is not a political rival in the presidential candidate in a presidential race to Trump. The Democrats don't have a candidate yet. So he did so through a scheme or course of conduct that included soliciting the government of Ukraine to publicly announce investigations that would benefit his reelection. Against what? There is no candidate. Again, there is no candidate that the Democrat Party has nominated for the election. So, as far as I remember, I did not look this up, but let's look at this number of candidates. Let's look for the number of candidates for 2020 Democratic primary. And let's look at that. It says here, it says the field of major Democratic presidential candidates in the 2020 election peaked at more than 24 as of December 4th, 2019. 15 major candidates are seeking. Okay, so there's 15 major candidates seeking the president to be nominated to be a rival to Trump. 15. Right now, is there a rival to Trump? No, doesn't exist. The Democrats are still trying to figure out who that's going to be. So the claim that, again, there's how can it benefit when he's still yet to be nominated? And so they cannot claim that he's a political a political rival to the presidency because he's still not yet nominated. As far as we're concerned, any one of the other 15 can and has a chance. It could be Bernie Sanders. What does this have to do with Bernie Sanders? Anything that President Trump was supposedly, allegedly trying to do here, what does it have to do with Bernie Sanders? Let me ask you, is Bernie Sanders a candidate? Is he a political rival to Trump in your definition? Because if Biden is a political rival, so is Bernie Sanders. What does this have to do with Bernie Sanders' chances? Nothing. Nothing in absolute. Unless you guys already know that Bernie Sanders is not going to be able to win, which we would also like to know. We like to know who the Democratic Party has chosen to be their nominee, their nominated candidate. I'd like to know that. We would like to know. Because as far as we know, up at this time of this broadcast, there is no candidate yet. So he wanted to harm the election prospects of a, again, political opponent, which he is not yet a political opponent. He has to be nominated and win the primaries of his own party. His own party doesn't care what Trump does. He has to win their approval. He's still not a political opponent and influence the 2020 United States presidential election to his advantage. Okay, so they're worried that whatever he asked them to do. So what they're saying is that whatever he asked Trump, whatever Trump asked the Ukraine to do, would influence the 2020. It's an admission that it would, and influence the 2020 United States presidential election. So he's saying the Democrats are admitting that whatever Trump told Ukraine or asked Ukraine to do would affect the 2020 United States presidential election to his advantage. Why is that? Why is investigating Biden would be an advantage and an influencing the 2020 United States presidential election? Why would that be? See, if I were a Democrat, I would be interested in knowing that. See, you guys should ask questions. Here it is. Your party is saying the truth. Is saying the truth. So what about that? Why aren't you guys worried about the truth? Because these guys are here. President Trump also sought to pressure the government of Ukraine to take these steps by conditioning official United States government acts of significant value to Ukraine on his public announcement of the investigations. President Trump engaged in the scheme of course of conduct for corrupt purposes in pursuit of personal political benefit. Personal and political benefit. Okay? So that's why it was personal benefit. And in these issues of impeachment, it doesn't have to be for political. It could just be for personal benefit. That's enough. Personal benefit. Even if it was for personal benefit, it would be wrong. In so doing, President Trump used the powers of the presidency in a manner that compromised national security of the United States and undermined the integrity of the United States democratic process. So, in the basic issue is that if the president or any government official, for that matter, uses their office to force, to encourage, okay, Ukraine. Let's just limit it to Ukraine. Any government, but this is about Ukraine, isn't it? To encourage the Ukraine to do something in return for the release of monies that it was entitled to under for national security, because that's what we're talking about here. Ukraine has to defend itself against Russia. We consider that a national security issue. So any official person who is forcing Ukraine to do something in return to get the monies that are due to it from our own national security interests is the impeachment qualifier. That's the impeachment qualifier. So I want you to remember that. Now, another thing you need to look at is the oath of office. As we already said, I will do my best ability to preserve, protect, defend the Constitution of the United States. So it is within the jurisdiction of the office of the president to do everything faithfully that will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. And that includes everything in it. Remember, what the Constitution authorizes within it is that Congress passes laws. So that the office of president has to defend the laws of the United States. Now, the president is responsible, on the responsibilities of the president. If you look with me, and you can, let's throw it up here. The president is responsible for implementing and enforcing the laws written by Congress, and to that end, appoints the heads of the federal agencies, including the cabinet. So we see that the president is responsible for implementing and enforcing the laws. So he is his business. What he does from Monday to Friday, if you will, is he makes sure that the Congress who passes the laws of this country, that their laws, the people's laws, are implemented and enforced. That is the executive branch of government. That's what he's supposed to make sure that goes on. So he is personally responsible to ensure that the laws of Congress are implemented and enforced, so that you can understand. Let us look at some U.S. laws here, okay? One of them is against bribery. It says here, bribery is to influence an official act. Bribery to influence an official act, Section 201, prohibits bribery designed to influence an official act, right, on both an active and passive basis. Section 201 defines official act as, and then second, to influence such public official to participate in any way in any fraud on the United States. So these are things, even if there was something that that had the appearance of bribery, right, on one of our officials, any one of our elected officials, any government employee, any appointee to any agency, any bribery, the president, this is under the purview of the president of the United States, he would be responsible to make sure that the law, the bribery to influence an official act, Section 201, is implemented, right, and enforced. That's his responsibility. There is also a foreign bribery act as well, which we'll probably see um, in this article here. This is out of, what is this here? This is of Kern.info, and this is the regulation of bribery in the United States. Okay, so again, this is by Dan's Review International de Droit Penal. Anyway, it's written here, and you can get access this at Kern.info, and it's a review of international and other governments type of regulations against bribery. So we have the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which also has to do with the U.S. Bribing, or any person in U.S. or U.S. Government official bribing an official from another government, or for that matter, another government entirely, right? Through their leaders, through their presidency. So that is one act that also has to be looked into. It's to guarantee or to ensure that no bribes are being interchanged or enacted upon other countries, as well that nothing is being acted against the United States. Here we see the federal bribery statute. Among federal laws against bribery, United States Code 201 on bribery of public officials and witnesses is the most significant. It applies to essentially any person employed or acting on behalf of the United States government, as well as, take care of the words any government, as well as anyone appointed or nominated to fill any governmental position. First, bribery designed to influence official behavior, and second, illegal gratuities or the giving of something of value. Remember that? Something of value as payback for something done by someone in an official capacity, or as a payment for the future expectation of favorable treatment. Okay? So this is a law that the president has to worry about. He has to worry about this. He has to make sure that this law is implemented and it is enforced. That's within the purview of the office of the president of the United States, ultimately. So it is under his responsibility. Now, Section 201 prohibits bribery designed to influence an official act on both an active or passive basis. Passive bribery involves anyone who directly or indirectly corruptly gives, offers, or promises anything of value to any public official or person who has been selected to be a public official, or offers or promises any public official or any person who has been selected to be a public official anything of value with the intent to accomplish one of three things. First, to influence an official act. Second, to influence such public official to participate in any way in any fraud on the United States. Third, to induce such public official to act or omit to act in violation of his or her lawful duty. So again, the intent required for a violation of the statute must be to influence an official act. Okay, so that we understand that within the scope of the laws of the Congress, which the president has to make sure is responsible to make sure is implemented and enforced, is to make sure that no one is being bribed from any other country for making certain favorable policies, for influencing in any way anything that has to do with that government and with our government, and any type of promise or any type of insinuation, even if it's just to gain favor. All of that has to be persecuted by the President of the United States. It's under his responsibility to ensure that these laws are not being violated. You have the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act again. United States federal law known primarily of two of its main provisions. One that addresses accounting transparency requirements under the Securities Exchange Act, 1934, and another concerning bribery of foreign officials. The act was amended in 1988. So we all know what bribery is. It says here, furtherance of a foreign corrupt practice. Let's see here. The FCPA applies to any person who has a certain degree of connection to the United States and engages in corrupt practices abroad, as well as to U.S. businesses, foreign corporations trading securities in the U.S., American nationals, citizens, and residents acting in furtherance of a foreign corrupt practice, whether or not they are physically present in the U.S. This is considered the nationality principle of the act. Any individuals involved in these activities may face prison time, right? Because we're talking about the law. And we're talking about a law that the president has to make sure that it is being implemented and enforced. And now let's take a look at this. This is from Biden's quid pro quo, Robert Plotkins. There were other sources for this info, but let's look at this. You're not getting the money. And that's all you need. You have there video evidence of a bribe being talked about by the person who made it back when he did it. This is a person that should be now under investigation. And because the president raised up this possible situation with that foreign government to look into that, what is that? Now the president is suffering what this one is supposed to have been investigated for. That is the difficulty in the Democrats' impeachment case and in the articles of impeachment. They are ignoring the responsibilities of the president, yet saying that the president was not responsible to his office. They are saying that the president made a demand that something be done in and to hold up the monies the way you heard it here. See, the way you heard it here, that's exactly what they're saying that President Trump did. However, President Trump never said that. He never communicated to the Ukrainian president that, like what Biden communicated when he addressed the Ukrainian president. See that? So here we go. Clearly, we see some dishonesty happening here, and it's sad. Let me see if any of this has to do with anything. None of that. So with this, I'm going to end our research here into this issue. The article of impeachment on abuse of power is actually based on the president exercising his responsibility of office to investigate an abuse of power on the part of, unfortunately, another political candidate. That's his fault. It's not an issue of the president. It's an issue that the president has to follow on these issues of bribery and any other laws that he has to be looking into. That is his responsibility. So you make the decision on that, but the House is very weak in its impeachment articles. Very weak. It's unfortunate. They should have had something better than this. But that's it. I have to leave. I have to go quickly, so I'll be catching you guys later on. Look into the information. Don't close your eyes to the facts, ladies and gentlemen. The President of the United States was well within his right to ask that things be cleared up and cleaned. The people of the United States elected him to clean the swamp or to drain the swamp, whatever. That's it. He's doing his job. Somebody is trying to cover up for somebody. We have to put an end to this. Let intelligence reign. Take care. See you guys later.